I, Saltiel Otilio Ramirez Rodriguez, affirm that this evidence is of my own authorship. I have not appealed to plagiarism in any of its forms, and I establish that in preparing and developing this activity, I have followed the guidelines of the Tecnológico de Monterrey Code of Ethics. Now let's begin. Nowadays, in this transition we're living toward electrified transport, terms like zero emissions have become more and more common in environmental discourse. However, these claims often ignore fundamental engineering principles, such as thermodynamics and life cycle impacts. And for me, as a mechatronic engineer student, it is important to clarify this information so we can see the difference between the real and the false information. Well, this is also relevant because sustainability is not only determined by how a product operates, it is also important to see how the people use it and, most important, how it is produced. With this in mind, in the next video we'll be analyzing BMW's Zero Emissions Cars campaign, a Google advertising strategy used in 2023 and 2024. In this campaign, BMW bid on search terms such as zero emissions cars, causing their ads to appear with the headline Zero Emissions Cars. Download your brochure today. And well, later, this campaign was banned by the UK Advertising Standards Authority for being misleading. More specifically, this campaign aimed to promote BMW's electric cars as an environmentally friendly alternative. And the interesting part in this is that they really used search-based advertising. I mean, this wasn't fake at all. And well, obviously their main target were the consumers actively looking for low emission cars. However, the ASA determined that consumers would interpret the phrase zero emissions cars as meaning the vehicles have no environmental impact at all. And well, why it is greenwashing? Why if I just mentioned that this is search-based advertising? I mean, it is because it just almost follows, the concept definition of greenwashing. It presents only a partial truth of this complete reality. I mean, as we all know, electric vehicles do not emit gases while being driven, but these emissions still occur during manufacturing and when we charge them using electricity from the grid. And when they omit this information, they only create a misleading perception of the environmental impact of the cars. From an engineering perspective, this is a clear case of life cycle assessment, or LCA, and this because the claim only considers the tank-to-wheel phase, I mean the drive stage where the movement is generated, while they ignore the cradle-to-gate phase that includes battery production, material extraction, and manufacturing processes, and also ignores the well-to-tank phase, where we can talk about the energy generation used to charge the vehicle, and this creates a system boundary fallacy. This means that they use only a part of the system to create a global claim. As we can imagine, a lot of fallacies are presented in this campaign, and I will mention the most important ones. But also, the technical analysis we just made will help us understand better these four fallacies, which are fallacy of omission, oversimplification, false implication, and system boundary fallacy, which I just mentioned. The first one is because they ignore key life cycle emissions. Oversimplification because they reduce a complex system to just one variable. False implication because they suggest zero impact from their electric cars, which we saw that is not true. And finally, system boundary fallacy, which limits our scope. These four fallacies create what we can call as a false scientific reality. The campaign is based on technological optimism, suggesting that innovation alone can solve environmental problems, and it also promotes consumption-based solutions, because this implies that when you purchase an electric car, it will be enough to address climate change, and this also creates a narrative of effortless sustainability. About social media, reactions to the campaign were divided, because some users consider the ruling excessive, arguing that electric cars are cleaner than conventional cars, which is true, but in contrast, environmental groups pointed out that calling them zero emissions is scientifically inaccurate. And well, this campaign encourages a lot of slacktivism because, as we've been mentioning along the video, they make consumers feel like this boy is helping to solve a complex problem, which is not true. This campaign is linked to several sustainable development goals, mainly three: SDG number 13, climate action; SDG number 12, responsible consumption; and SDG number 9, industry and innovation. However, the misleading claims this campaign has made limit the effectiveness of these objectives, mainly the SDG number 12, because if people doesn't receive accurate information, they cannot make responsible decisions. Now, what is missing? This campaign failed to include key information, such as battery production emissions, energy source used for charging, and the full life cycle environmental impact. And without this key information, it is really complicated because this is a potentially misleading message and it's truly incomplete. A more effective campaign should move from zero emissions claims to a transparent life cycle assessment approach. For example, in the rules, citizens should demand transparency, authorities have to regulate environmental claims, companies provide full life cycle data, and medias ensure accurate communication. Ethos should be based on honesty and accountability. Logos should include real data, such as comparing CO2 emissions across the vehicle's entire life cycle. And pathos should appeal to responsibility and awareness, and not some perfection or looking for false certainty. For example, instead of claiming zero emissions, as I said, BMW could integrate some technology like the QR code to declare all of this life cycle assessment approach. And with this, it could prove some real environmental impact and not some greenwashing thing. Greenwashing campaigns are effective because they offer a simple and appealing solution to complex problems, creating a sense of guilt-free consumption, and this feeling to all of us as a consumers that we are helping our environment with a product that it simply does not work the way they make us see it. And also their main consequence is the distortion of scientific reality, which slows down real progress in reducing emissions across industrial systems. I think that true sustainability requires compromise from both parts. First, the companies need to be more transparent, need to learn how to make real advertising about how they are implementing solutions, sustainability solutions, and also us as consumers, we need to be more introspective about products we really need or we don't really need. So in the end, we don't simply buy things for things that we think it could be useful to us, but we don't need in the end. This is not the case with the cars because in the end we probably need cars, but with some other lots of things we could be making it better. I learned a lot of things about ethics of consumption which I like to share. I have my key takeaways, and the first one is precisely the greenwashing thing. How companies use specific words or or images to mislead information about their products, and some things are probably fake. The second one is how every product, even if it's little, has its impact on the world. Beyond nature also affects natives or cultures where in zones where probably material is extracted. And the third thing is that our consumption habits have an ecological footprint, which probably is bad, but we can also lower it. I like to research more about these two things. The first one is about the concrete actions that the government is taking or is failing to take about these regulations to the companies and environmental impact. And the second one, how these companies that creates friendly products, and I don't mean greenwashing, I mean friendly, truly friendly, are making their advances, because as we saw, even electric cars probably keep doing a bad work in these environmental impact terms. And finally, I seek to improve my consciousness about my consumption habits and to really think about what I need or what I don't need, because now I know that every little product has its cost on the nature, and I need to be better in that. Thank you.